ladies. It is good to be with you and super excited to be with you. But honestly, I never wanted to be one of the speakers for now. Honestly, I fight the lies that I should be on stage at all. But God spoke to me at another women's conference about using the gifts that I've been given. And I have two beautiful girls who are looking up to me, and I want to be an example for them to walk in obedience. So, this is me walking in obedience for what God is calling me to. Today, we're going to talk about rising up and shining out. Our theme verse says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." So, there's two commands in this verse: rise and shine. So, what does it mean to rise up and to shine? It means to walk in his ways in the mountaintop moments and in the valley moments. We all come to conference from different stages in our lives. Whether you're in a valley or a mountain, God is calling you to rise up and shine out. Maybe you've been praying for your miracle and God hasn't answered it yet, or maybe won't this side of heaven. Will you continue to pray bold prayers, believing in his promises and singing his praises? God doesn't call us only to praise him in the mountaintop moments, but also in the valleys. It says in Psalms 23:4, "Even though I walk through the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Ladies, do you believe that? He is with us. Today, we're going to talk about the three R's. And if you're like my daughter Lily, you immediately thought of reduce, reuse, and recycle. So she told me I had my R's wrong, but today we're going to have to rebrand. So today we're going to talk about relying on the faith of others. This is my amazing family, and I've had to rely on them a lot throughout the years. But let's dive into a story in the Bible. 2 Kings 4:1-4. The wife of a man from the company of the prophet called to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he has revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my two boys as his slaves." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask all the neighbors for empty jars. Don't just ask for a few." In 2 Kings 4:3, Elisha tells the widow in the passage to borrow jars, and by borrowing jars, she's borrowing their faith. She didn't know what was going to happen, but she trusted Elisha in his faith. She also had to rely on others because she couldn't get these jars all alone. She was grieving the loss of her husband and faced with the threat of losing her two sons into slavery. So what did she do? She had to rise up and call on others. She had to borrow their faith. She had full expectancy that God would move and ask him to seek him together. Elisha tells her to go to the neighbors and get as many vessels as possible. She had to rely on their faith. Sometimes we have to be desperate to be delivered. We need to be desperate and ask for what we need. Speaking of relying on the faith of others, this past summer, I went on a camping experience. And if you know me at all, I am not a camper. It was for Father's Day, and Levi really wanted to go, so I said that I would go. I knew I was in over my head when my 7 and 8-year-old had a job and a role, and I had no idea what was going on. Then they had this experience where they called cameling up, which meant they gathered as many different jars and as many different water bottles to fill up with water when we were down getting water so that we'd have enough water for camp. I kind of felt like I was that Shumanite woman, gathering and asking my sister for as many jars as she can, different shapes and sizes. She had to ask and she had to have great faith. Some of you have experienced your miracle, while others of you are still waiting on your miracle. The camping story is a lighthearted story, but 6 years ago, I had to rely on the faith of others big time. I was coming back from a trip to Peru and had a traumatic experience, which landed me in the psych ward in the hospital for over a week. I was put on 9 different medications and diagnosed with bipolar. I was numb and not myself. I wish I could say things magically got better after I was on the meds, but honestly, it just got worse. I had to rely on my husband, my friends, my family. I couldn't go to church because of the reminders, but I needed those reminders of truth from others. I was off of work for 4 months and humiliated because I needed supervision each day while I was off. I couldn't be alone with my children because I wasn't safe for myself, but I wasn't safe for others. And honestly, still waiting on my miracle. I haven't been cured and I'm still on medication for my bipolar. I have had hard days that I don't want to get out of bed and I'm extremely triggered. I've gained over 100 pounds in the last 5 years with different med changes, and I wish it was easy as going off as it was going on. But the redemptive story is still there, which leads me to my second R: replay the miracles of God. I have had so many miracles that and things that God has been faithful in, even in my bipolar diagnosis. I own a women's conference and manage my brother's store with my bipolar. Even though I still have bipolar, doesn't mean that God hasn't faithfully answered my prayers, but my healing hasn't come this side of heaven. Another miracle I replay is getting pregnant for the first time. We tried for 2.5 years to get pregnant, and even saying that I'm sensitive because I know other friends and other of you have been waiting for longer. And I want you to know God sees you. I've had multiple friends who've done in vitro and adoption and are still waiting and hoping. But I do replay the miracle of Lily because for those 2.5 years, that was painful. Each month, a reminder in the doctor visits. God answered my prayer with two beautiful girls. And during my bipolar episode, I replayed the miracles of having my babies, even though I couldn't be alone with them. They were the main reason I fought to stay alive. Let's continue in our story in 2 Kings 4:4-7. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go and sell the oil and pay for your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." She was instructed to pour it out. Don't be tempted to hold on to something because you can't see where the next supply is coming from. No, all this lady had was a small bit of oil. She had great faith. She relied on the faith of others and to not gather just a few, but a lot. And she shuts the door, and God multiplies the oil. Every vessel is filled. Every single vessel. God did great work. He showed up in mighty ways. Don't dismiss the ordinary things you have because God takes the ordinary and makes it extraordinary. I believe God's greatest work is in the normal day-to-day miracles, and God showed up in big ways and overflowed blessings to not only let her pay off her debt, but also to be able to live on what was left. But when we replay the miracles, it doesn't have to discount the pain of the unanswered prayers. Are you in a drought-ridden valley? God is calling you to not despair, but to whisper a prayer and give him control in this situation. I have a laundry list of prayers that I'm still praying and believing for. And I have a long list of prayers that he has faithfully answered. Answered prayers of being a mom and running a women's conference. But I believe he is calling us to rise in the valley and in the mountains and to shine out for him. Don't surrender to your circumstances. Surrender to the God of the universe, which leads me to my last R: remain in him. The God of the universe who called you, who made you, wants a relationship with you. He is so committed to us that he sent his son Jesus to take the brunt of our pain and be broken for us. He took on our sin and invites us into relationship with him. So wherever you are, you need to remain in him. Read his word, Listen to his voice. Shout out to him and talk to him, because we're called to rise and then to shine his goodness. Some of you need to rise up today and support a friend who needs your faith. We need to do gut checks and real level honesty and change the way that we do life with one another. God gives and provides us, and we just need to ask him for the moments when we're in need. It says in Psalm 2:12, "Blessed are those who take refuge in him." So let's rebrand. Let's rely on the faith of others. Let's replay the miracles of God, and let's remain in him. Thank you.